Entrepreneur's Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, so the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneur's Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneur's Enigma podcast. I am always and still Seth, your host. And today I have John Lester of Attitude Selling. You kind of screwed me up because you have mountains on your website, so I think altitude, but it's attitude. It's clever, though. I like it. Attitude Selling.
I like how you put that.
But I was like, why am I getting stuck on this? There you go. So you're helping struggling organizations and salespeople become sustainable revenue creators.
Correct.
Now, I love that because everyone needs to figure out how to generate revenue. And it's not just a matter of getting business, putting money into your business, growing your business. But if you're not creating revenue, you're not investing back into your business, you're investing in yourself. And so you help people do that. So what's your background? How did you find your way into coaching?
It's interesting. I remember in high school, and this is
we're going way back.
We're going way back, and this is kind of fascinating. The more I've thought of it over the years, I think in my entire education, I've had 5 or 6 teachers that made a mark on me.
Well, that's a lot for most people. There's that one 4th grade teacher.
Right.
You've had 5,
and I've had 5. And I make this so people understand that have been through this experience and haven't had to go through shock therapy because of it. I started out in Catholic high school.
Oh, God help you.
Oh, no, it was wonderful. It was the Jesuits. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And I couldn't do it for a whole lot of reasons just because of the travel time. So I got transferred into public high school and found these 3 amazing teachers in public high school. And I realized the change that they were making in me. And I said, wow, I want to be a teacher.
Oh, wow.
Because these people were they were exploding my mind at that age and that level. And I said, this is really cool because I didn't wake up like a lot of people do, or a few people do, and say, oh, I want to be a nuclear scientist. I want to be a neurosurgeon. I just didn't do that. I realized I couldn't be a cowboy living on Long Island. I realized, okay, I've got to pick something else. And then the strange part was that, to kind of keep this short, I remember getting the Daily News one morning, and the headline across it was New York City lays off 60,000 teachers.
Yeah.
I believe that was the headline. Maybe it was something different.
But still, a lot of teachers, yeah.
Yeah, and so I realized, hey, maybe this dream isn't really what it should be. One thing leads to another. I wind up getting into sales. I wind up not even teaching. I do a bunch of stuff. But I realized that during my time, I'm always trying to help people. I'm always trying to help other salespeople. I'm always trying to explain. I remember one sales guy, one of the best sales guys I ever met. He couldn't get his head around the product that we were trying to sell, so I had to teach him how to sell the product.
Oy.
Now this is a whole important piece of this notion of how to help businesses. And over time, I started to realize, do I like to sell? I love to sell, but I love to sell from the perspective of helping people. I would get the commission checks and I go, that's great. Who else am I going to help today? As opposed to going, oh, wow, I got the commission check. All right. But I also realized that the more I help people and the better I help people, the better I'm able to relive one experience. I'll tell you one experience. So a commission check comes in the mail. I'm sitting in my house in Jersey City, and I look at the commission check and I look at my mortgage statement. And I realize that I can swap them. Stroke of a pen, I can pay off my entire mortgage.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's when things are right in sales, I don't think there's a better job in the world.
No. Yeah.
But you have to make
everyone's happy. The customers are happy. The company's happy. And because the company's happy, you're happy because hopefully they're compensating you correctly.
So bring us back real fast to COVID.
Yeah.
What happened? And I've been very successful in sales, especially large account sales, Fortune 2000 type accounts, selling primarily financial services firms, technology, getting them to understand the technology, getting them to understand how the technology is going to help them achieve their problems.
Yeah.
So COVID shows up, and I'm sitting
Ugh.
thinking about COVID and a lot of it afterwards, and realize that, 95% or so, and Seth, this is just numbers out of my head, so I don't want any of your listeners calling up and going,
Don't write these down. Don't write these down. Just
yeah, don't
listen.
write these
Yeah,
down.
okay. We're gonna take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show.
Yeah, it's the concept, that 95% of people in this country, because I'm not going to speak for anybody else, really don't want a lot. All right. We want to be able to get up in the morning, hug the kids, hug your wife, get some breakfast, go to work, have a reasonably decent job, have a little bit of respect, have some good people, go home, grab a beer on the way home, come home, play with the kids, hug your wife, go to bed, and do it all over again. We don't really want a whole lot. And
Yeah,
for all the gurus out there that are telling everybody, oh, you've got to be self-actualized, you got to do, screw it. Most people just want a happy lifestyle.
yeah.
That's all. Okay. But because of that mindset, what they don't do is they don't really spend time and energy understanding, are they adequately equipped to be in the top 20% of what they do? Because the top 20% in any
Mm,
business don't look for a job ever.
yeah.
They don't.
They get either they don't leave and they're happy where they are, or they get handed the next opportunity.
Well, they get poached.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened in COVID was a lot of people like that who just want to come home and hug the kids got dropped from jobs because the business couldn't sustain itself. And the reason the business couldn't sustain itself was because it didn't have a optimized sales process.
Oy. Yeah.
Now,
Makes sense.
some businesses could not survive. The cruise ships could not survive.
Honestly, did you see what happened at the beginning of COVID? How they were stuck in the harbor with people with COVID. It was like that was a disaster.
Oh yeah, but also look at all of the associated businesses and services, like all
I
the
know.
catering, all the cleaning, all of these kinds of things. All of these businesses went down. But if you really looked, a number of businesses figured out what their core assets really looked like,
Mhm.
and they were able to shift the business. So
Mhm.
if,
There's
if
a lot of
anybody's
shifting.
if anybody's
Yeah.
interested in this topic, I'll give everybody a hint. This you can write down. Look up a essay, because it's only an essay. It's not a book,
Wow.
by a fellow by the name of Theodore Levitt,
Oh, I've heard of this guy. Yeah.
and the name of the article is "Marketing Myopia," and it was
Okay.
written in the '60s, and it is
So it's a little
argued
dry.
it was, yeah, but it was
It's well, anytime you say written in the '60s, you're like, and the brain was a little dry, but it's probably really good. So,
it's really good. It's still, to me today, one of the most significant articles I've ever read, and has shaped my
wow.
thinking considerably. So I said, look, what am I going to do with this? So I
Yeah.
started down two paths, and I said, one, the problem with businesses, as I see it, and again, this is only my perspective, is that if you think of from the time of prospect interest to customer raving fan, if you think
Mhm.
about that continuum, it's a big continuum. Okay. What are all the steps that have to happen? And are businesses completely aligned in an efficient and effective fashion
Mm.
in order to go from that all the way through? Or
It's
do
processes.
businesses,
Yeah.
do they say something in their marketing that's different than what their salesperson says? Does the salesperson say something
Mm.
different than what the implementation person says?
Yeah. Alignment is everything.
It's everything.
If
So
you're not
that,
aligned and your salesperson says one thing and you're doing another thing, it's like the customer's like, "What the f?"
well, here's the interesting part, Seth, that makes this so fascinating to me is we used to believe, and a lot of people still do, that people buy products and services.
Mhm.
They don't. They buy the results. They buy the results of those products and services in the achievement of their personal motivation.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Okay. Now, anytime when you consider all of the stuff that's thrown at people on a daily basis, I mean, I don't care who you read, who you listen to, we have what, 50 to 60 thoughts a day, thousand thoughts a day, 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
No, 50 to 60, that's all I have. That's me. 50 to 60 is enough for me, but 50 to 60,000
That's
is more.
right. That stuff that comes into our brain.
Oh
So
god.
that coupled with
I have
all of,
more. I'm ADHD. I have more.
so you've more. Yeah. Okay. So now you've got
Yeah.
all of that coming in. As soon as that flow of I'm trying to solve this problem, should I solve it with Seth? As soon as that flow gets interrupted, it forces the conscious and the
Mm.
subconscious to go, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't do business with him.
Mm.
So
That's
if you think
clever, yeah.
about from the time of customer interest all the way to raving fan, how many times are these organizations breaking that thinking pattern?
Yeah. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. Now,
That's deep, man.
the salesperson side, the individuals, because I really relate to the individuals, because we're going to go two steps on this real fast. The individuals. So you and your mom and your dad, you're 4 years old, you're 5 years old. Your mom and your dad decide they got to go look at a car. They walk into the dealership with you in tow. You're like, oh, wow, pretty lights. This is cool, man. I like it. Look, this is nice cherry red. Salesperson comes over and makes some kind of wise ass comment. Father says, yeah, we're just looking around for the moment. We'll get back to you. Salesperson turns and leaves. Mom looks at your dad and goes, you can't trust that guy. He's a salesman.
Mm.
Those words go into the 4.5-year-old subconscious.
Yeah, and from then on, car dealer people are not
But
to
no,
be
but
trusted.
what he said, what your 4.5-year-old self said was salespeople. Now that
Oh,
message,
not even the fact that it's car dealership salespeople, it's salespeople in general.
yeah. So now that
Oh.
message gets reinforced through the media, through other situations, through real
Mhm.
estate, through anybody. It gets
Yeah.
reinforced. And now here you are, you're 27,
And
you're
it's not
28.
true, and it's not true.
Well, exactly.
Oh, sometimes it's true,
But
but
understand,
no.
your subconscious doesn't understand the negative. And I'm sure
Mm.
you remember this. What was it? Bottom of the ninth inning, 2 outs. Batter gets up, bases are loaded. He can hit a grand slam, and the game's going to be over in their favor. The coach walks up to the pitcher on the mound and says, whatever you do, don't throw low and on the inside. What do you think his subconscious heard?
Enlighten me.
Throw low and in the inside. And that's exactly what he did.
Oh, no. He
Because
missed the don't.
the subconscious can't hear the don't. So now you're 27, you're 28, you're 29 years old, and
Yeah.
you go, I got to make some money. This girl is really nice. I'm going to get serious. I want to marry her. We're going to have to buy a car. We're going to have kids, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I can get a job as a salesperson. And you go out to go and sell, and your subconscious says, wait a minute, Seth. Hey, Seth, you're an
Mhm.
honorable person. How
You
can
don't
you
wanna be
be
a
a
salesperson, yeah.
salesperson when a salesperson's scummy and you're not? And people wonder
Mm.
why they have trouble selling.
Mhm.
So there's this whole relationship in your brain about what you think of sales relative to yourself. There's a relationship with what do you think about sales relative to your prospect? And there's all
Mhm.
sorts of things people think about prospects. What's
Oh,
that
yeah.
relationship to your product or your service? And what's just some really interesting markers out in the business world that if you understand, sales would be much much easier.
Absolutely.
And then the wave comes. And then the wave comes. And
Mm.
now we've seen in the past 18 months more white collar layoffs than we've ever seen in the history of the United States.
I know.
And for the first time, the vast majority of layoffs are white collar, not blue collar, because you and I lived through the blue collar layoffs.
Yeah.
Now it's the white collar. So what
And
happens?
it's a shock,
And this is
yeah.
what's really fascinating. So take the story of the sales of the kid, the salesperson. What happens now? Somebody's been working for Google or for Yahoo or for LinkedIn or any of these companies, it doesn't really matter, 20, 30, 40 years. And they go, I can't go back to corporate America. One, I've been screwed, and two, they're not going to hire me back. All right.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to go hang a shingle because I have all this subject matter expertise and I can bring great
Yeah.
changes to people. And they take this technical, subject matter, rational, logical, objective stuff and they walk into you and talk about it. And you go, let me get back to you because they never made the personal connection because they don't understand that
Mm.
sales is an emotional game. It's a trust
Oh, it
game.
is.
But people coming out of corporate have never been trained.
And so that's where you come in
That's where I come in.
because 'cause you've done the corporate.
I understand what
You
it takes to buy and I understand what it takes to sell.
That's good, yeah. So that goes to the other question I was gonna ask you is what sets you apart from the plethora of coaches out there? Because like web designers, you're a dime a dozen. Like
Yeah,
you have to kind of say
yeah,
what makes John special,
yeah.
and you kind of highlighted that you know what's on both sides of the sales process, that
I also
you
know
know what goes into being a salesperson and being a liked salesperson.
what it goes into being a failure as a salesperson.
Mhm.
Because I've been in wrong situations, bad situations. I've failed. Look, I'll admit it. I failed.
Yeah,
Okay,
nothing wrong with failure.
nothing wrong with
It's just
failure.
it's a chance to learn.
But when you grow up in the world of technology, the turnover in
Mhm.
technology as we got into the 2000s just accelerated insanely.
Honestly, the technology itself has accelerated in the past 3 weeks faster than it's done in 3 years.
Correct.
You
Correct.
blink and it's like AI this, and I'm like, whoa, slow down.
Right. So I understand
Yeah,
where the failures occur and why the failures occur. I also understand what the successes look like.
yeah.
And 90% of it has to do with what goes on between their ears. So as
Mhm.
Zig Ziglar used to say, you got to get a checkup from the neck up.
Love that. Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to this because I was a journalist for 6 years,
Ugh.
then left that, and then I went into sales, and I saw I worked for Mobile Mini.
Hmm.
Not a bad company, but they sell Connex boxes, big construction boxes with the Tri-Cam locking system to construction sites.
Right.
Honestly, take a forklift to the side of the sucker, you can still get in just as fine and bypass the whole locking system. Don't tell your clients that. Take a sledgehammer to the side of the corrugated steel, you can still get the stuff out of there. But besides the point.
Yeah.
But I realized I was no good at it because I wasn't selling something that I believed in. Not that I didn't believe in, but not something I was passionate about. So fast forward 3 years, 2008 banking crisis, you know, started hung my shingle, and I'm sitting there, and I'm doing web design and all that, and I'm like, well, I'm halfway decent at this. You know why? Because I liked what I sold. I believed in what I sold.
Right.
I wanted to help people with what I sold and what I did, and that was the whole difference.
That's the whole difference.
16 years later, I'm still doing it.
Right. Yeah. No, I used to, years ago, I used to sell technology because I love technology. It fascinates me. It
Yeah.
fascinates me what you could do with it. And I was selling some fun technology. I mean, you and I right now run video conferencing. That's what we're on. That's what the technology is known as.
Mhm.
I was selling video conferencing in the early 90s when we got for each endpoint 6 figures. 6 figures.
Well, but you gotta think about back then. I mean, that it wasn't a commodity back then.
It
I
wasn't a
mean,
commodity. But the amazing results I got because people for the first time saw people that they had only been, emailing or writing letters to and talked on the phone.
mhm.
I mean, it was so much fun for me because I could take
Yeah.
this thing and make it fun. And
Mhm.
I got really, really sick one time. I mean, extraordinarily sick to the point where the doctor had
Right.
no idea what was wrong with me. And it's the end of the quarter. I mean, I've got blood result numbers that are out by 1,000 times,
Yikes.
tracking through my body. Nobody could understand what was wrong with me. I basically had to peel. My wife had to peel me off the sofa to get me to the doctor every day. And
Ugh.
my boss is calling me up, going, "Well, I need those numbers. I need this. I need," and I'm flipping out because I don't like to be in that position. I like
Yeah.
to do my job. And it was really it was an earth shattering moment, but an eye opening. And I said, "Well, what am I going to do? I love selling technology." I said, "But that's not going to work. So what are you going to do?" And I realized that what I really liked more than selling technology was helping people solve problems. And I said, "Fine, I'm going to
Mhm.
shift my focus and stop talking about sales and start talking about adding value."
Love it.
Because what I want is I want the smile on Seth's face when he looks at me and he says, "You know what? You helped me solve that problem."
Yeah, that's what sales is really about, is you have a product that can solve a
It's
problem.
supposed to be.
It's supposed to be, at least. Yeah.
Supposed to be.
Good point.
And the money comes, by the way.
Yeah.
I actually made more money when I made that choice.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. My best years fell after that. It was just so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help people who really need to sell right now. There's a lot of these subject matter expertise, there's solopreneurs that are coming out and I don't want to sell. I have to tell you this because you get a kick out of this.
Yeah.
So I run for another organization. I have office hours every Monday at 3 o'clock, and basically I come on to a video link, and anybody that wants to come on just comes on and we talk sales.
Ooh.
What problem do you want to solve? I had these three phenomenal powerhouse females on the call. All three high corporate. high titles, phenomenal experience, great certifications. I said, let me go around the room. Let me ask everybody a question, if I may. What value do you bring to the prospect?
Mm.
Not one of them could answer it.
Wow.
Not one of them could answer it.
That's intense.
Yeah.
It's like, it's wild. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And they're high powered, boss women that
Oh,
have made it this far, and they're like, what?
but they made it.
Yeah.
They made it in the jungle. Now we're in the desert.
Wow. Yeah.
Skill
Time to
sets are
change.
different.
Time to pivot.
Yeah, time to pivot.
So here's a question for you.
Sure.
You've done the sales for corporate, you've done tech sales, you've done the Fortune 200, all that stuff. What's the best thing about being on your own as an entrepreneur?
Well, actually, I shouldn't say this. I have a very, very, very different perspective than everybody else. And everybody right now is saying, "Oh, you can't work for the man. You can't work for corporate. You can't do this. You can't do that." Let me tell you something, folks, ladies and gentlemen. All my trips to Hawaii, all the free money, all the first class accommodations at Four Seasons hotels were all paid for by large corporations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I live in arguably one of the top 10 towns in the state of New Jersey. Okay, the garage is full. Right, my wife doesn't want for anything. And I don't care if it's clothes or jewelry, whatever. I love her dearly. And if I can do anything to help get her what she wants, all of that occurred because I worked for a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the secret: when you're blowing your number out, and you're one of the top five people, when you're contributing over $5 million a year to an organization, you don't have the problems that everybody complains about.
It's so true.
So I can't
It's
sit
so
here
true.
and bash corporations because I've also been
No.
royally screwed over by three-person companies and two-person companies.
I find that you get screwed over more. You're more of a number with the corporation, but they don't screw you over per se. You're just a number a lot of the time. Whereas when it's two or three people screwing you over, it's personal.
Yeah.
Even if they don't want it to be personal, it's personal, or it hurts like it's personal.
So I will tell you this one story because to me this is very important.
Yeah,
So back in the early '90s, as I said, when I was selling video conferencing, we were still trying to get uptake on the technology because six figures per endpoint, and you had to have two endpoints. You're going into a corporation, ask for $250,000 before you start.
yeah,
Okay, and I don't know how or why, but a New York City public school teacher got in touch with me, and she said, "Hey, look, I'm trying to do a project. Maybe you can help me." And I said, "What?" And what was going on was that we had, in order to demonstrate this, you had to have the second point, and you had to have a second point that was always available when you wanted to do a demonstration to a prospect.
mhm,
So we had found out that there was a facility, it was an aquarium down in Florida that had a shark tank, and they had the camera on the shark tank, and with the video systems as they were set up, if you called, the system would answer regardless if there was somebody there. That's
yeah,
the way they were set up. So we could call the fish tank in Florida and show somebody what it looked like, what the video quality looked like, because you had movement in it, etc. And they were
yeah.
happy to let us do that. So she calls up and she goes, "I've got all of these little kids, and we're going to do a camp out under the great whale at the Museum of Natural History. And if anybody doesn't understand, it's a life-size replica of a great whale.
Which is a big ass whale.
It's a big ass whale. And it's suspended from the ceiling. And she's
Hmm.
bringing in all of these kids underneath, and they were all going to camp out overnight underneath the whale.
That's
She
awesome.
said, "Could you bring video and could we turn it onto the Shark Tank?" Now, most people go through layers upon layers upon layers. Can I do this with the system? Dude, I was one of the top sales guys. I'm like, "Here's what we're doing." They're like, "Okay."
Yeah, because you bring the
But you
results.
bring in the
It's good. It's
results.
and it's good PR, and they trust you.
Right.
So, if anything, you're almost like an entrepreneur in the company
Correct.
because you are doing your thing. So, to go back to the question, you've done the best thing about being an entrepreneur inside the corporation. Now, what is the best thing now that you're out and helping other people figure stuff out?
Because now if I ask a question that says, what am I trying to accomplish? When am I trying to accomplish it? Are you telling me the truth? I ask that of myself. And excuse my
Mhm.
French, but I don't get some kind of BS answer from somebody who doesn't even understand the question or want to understand the question. It's amazing how many people I've spoken to, and I said, okay, you're business owners. And I said, let me ask you the first question. I said, what is your exit strategy?
Mm.
85% have no idea what I'm asking.
I'm included. Yeah,
How do you make strategic decisions if you don't know what your exit strategy is?
it's very true.
I said, what are your values? That's like speaking Russian to most people.
Because they don't sit down and think about it first.
Right. That's my point.
Values I can give you, exit strategy I can't. Because my thing with my business is that I'll do it to the day I die.
But that's your exit strategy.
I die.
You die. But you know what's
I
going to happen to the business when you die.
Yeah,
Either it's going to get, held in trust, or it's going to be given away, it's going to crumble, whatever the case might be. But at least you understand that. At least that's a decision.
yeah, that's true.
Okay. So you don't know. So you say, oh, I'm gonna grow this company forever because I'm really proud of it and I like it. Fine. If somebody walks in the door and gives you $100 million, what are you going to do? I'll sell it. Well, then you haven't
Oh,
thought through your exit strategy.
no.
Then how do you set up a strategic plan? How do you know how long you should be making decisions for?
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing holds true when we start to talk about what is your marketing message saying to your prospect? Is that carried through to sales? What are you trying to
Mm-hmm.
convey? Are you trying to convey trust? Are you trying to, I mean, there's so many little factors that
Yeah,
actually don't take that long to think about.
it doesn't. It's just you just have to realize you have to think about it.
Yeah. And that's what I try to do, is to help people think about it.
Hey, have you thought about this? No, I didn't know how to think about it. That
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, because before the call, I asked you how business was going, and you're like, it's a little slow right now for external circumstances and
Yeah.
whatnot. What keeps you up at night as an entrepreneur?
The only,
Or does nothing keep you up because you sleep very well?
from this perspective, I sleep pretty well. I'm always curious about, you know, how am I coming across? What kind of a mark am I going to make? You get to a certain point in your
Mm-hmm.
life and you start to think about, you know, um, how long am I going to be spoken about after I'm gone?
Your legacy, yeah.
Well, because there are two times you die. One is when you physically die, and the second is when the last person says your name for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
How long does that second time last? And then there's the real one that does keep me up, and this is the definition of death. The definition of death that I'm using is when the person you are meets the person you could have become.
Ooh, yeah. But then you also got to look at that and say, well, you can't sit there and regret. You just got to keep, because then you're thinking about what you could have become. Is kind of looking back. Well, what did you become? That kind of thing.
Well, but it says, to me, it's the same as the parable of the three servants and the 10 talents. It's, well,
Yeah,
what are you doing with your life? Are you in
yeah.
tune to what you're trying to accomplish and to your goals? Are you in tune with your values? Are you practicing those? Because we really
Mm-hmm.
should be thinking about that every day,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you got kids.
Oh God, yeah. I have a kid upstairs who's currently sick right now. So when this podcast comes out, he won't be sick. But viruses are abounding nowadays. So he's
Yes.
11 years old, and of course he came home with a virus. So go figure.
Uh,
So here's the big question:
sure.
what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time? You can go as woo woo as you want to go on this.
The way you react to life
Mm-hmm.
is all based on what's up here. And you are the only one who has control of that.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I just had a minor surgery yesterday, and I'm sitting in the room waiting to go to surgery. And of course, you have to expect medicine is going to run late. It just does, because things happen.
Always this.
All right, so don't worry about it.
Always this.
And I'm starting to feel myself get a little nervous and anxious, and I start to feel myself going, "Come on, what is going on?" And I said, "Whoa, whoa, stop!" I said, "I have the nerve to sit here on an
You
elective."
want to rush them? You want them to take the damn
No, no,
time.
no, no.
Damn
But
it!
I'm sitting here on an elective surgery,
Oh.
that I can afford, and I have the nerve to complain when there are people in Ukraine. Who
Mhm.
the hell am I to think that?
That's a good that's a very good pause. And it brought you back down to earth saying, "You know what? All right, another 10, 15," and then before you know it, you're out and you're running home and you're fine, you
And you're
know?
fine. So what I'm trying to say to people now is, we are being manipulated, and we have been manipulated for quite a while on both sides, however you want to frame this. And I'm not going to say one side is right and one side is wrong, but we are being manipulated. And the reason we're being manipulated is because the more fanatic anybody is about any subject, the reality is the more money they spend in support of that subject. So this
Mhm.
is all a money game.
Oh, it's all everything
But
goes
it's
back to money. The
always a
root of
money
all
game.
evil is money.
So before you get all, up in arms about subject X or subject Y, stop and think a minute. What am I really getting upset about? Am I adding to the confusion, or am I adding to the common sense? You're either
Mm.
part of the problem or you're part of the solution.
Amen.
Okay? So calm down, chill out, go hug somebody, and look at life again.
Love it.
That's all.
So, all right, so where can people find you online if they wanna get more of this wise wisdom from John Lester?
One of the things I would suggest, if they like, is go buy this on Amazon.
Yes, winning
The
the
inner game, the inner
inner
game
game
of
of
sales.
sales.
It was written as a 60-minute read.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, it's not that long. There's some good common sense in there, which is really how I like to approach things. There's some great quotes. I love quotes.
Oh, yeah.
Start from that perspective, and then go check out the website, attitudeselling.com, and you'll see
And
both
admire
programs.
the altitude of the mountains.
Altitude of the attitude.
There you go. It's attitude selling.
That's attitude selling. And look, it's troubling times. You need, reach out to me. We'll chat.
Absolutely. You're very accessible.
Very
Yeah.
accessible.
You're a good chatter. You're a good kibitzer. So that's a good thing.
Appreciate that.
But John, this has been so much fun. We could go on for hours, I'm
Good.
sure.
Yes.
But guess what?
So
We'll
so
see
my one
everyone.
question for you.
Oh, you got a question for me?
What are you guys
Yay.
going to do about Jason? Kelsey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Rub it in. Rub it in.
Sorry.
But honestly, yeah, how many games did he do consecutively? The guy deserves a break. And his younger brother, that's one thing I love about Jason is that he's like, yeah, we lost to the Kansas City, Chiefs in the Super Bowl. This is coming from a guy who doesn't really watch sports ball at all, but like still, like I appreciate a good game. But then even then, he hasn't announced his retirement, so for all intents and purposes, he's still an Eagle, or as we say down here, an Eagle.
Right.
And he still's like, screw this, I'm gonna go cheer on my brother. We're not playing right now. Rips his shirt off, cheers like a complete banshee, and that's brotherly love right there. That just shows what kind of guy he
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
That he's a big teddy bear. He'll fly coach, and sign autographs all the time. I mean, he is the best part of Philly, in my opinion.
Besides the cheesesteaks.
Yeah. Dallas Sanders is the best cheesesteaks, in my opinion, and I'll fight people on that. So, well, on that note,
Thank you, sir.
we will see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneur's Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode.